Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Grind to get real life topics from a biblical perspective. My name is Brian Boyd. Today's topic is life in three struggles. Everyone out there, as always, I pray that you all been safe, been well, have been blessed over this past week. And before we get into this video, please be sure to like and share if you're watching this physically. And if you're one of my amazing listeners, please be sure to download this episode and share it with the people you know as well, because this topic tonight is going to be one for the history books. And it's something that when it clicked for me the other day, it clicked. And along with that, I got so much for y'all. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So as you see, as I named it, it's called Life in Three Struggles. And it's basically in the sense of that everything that we struggle with in life, no matter how big or how small it is, can be categorized into three major things. And this is surprisingly found in 1 John 2:16, where it reads that for everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life comes not from the Father, but from the world. And basically this verse is saying just that, life, that everything that we go through can be summed up into three things. And that is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And to break those down specifically, the lust of the flesh can be anything that you have a physical desire for. This can be food that you want but don't necessarily need. This can be drinks. This can be anything. This may even be sleep for some instance. You may want to, you have work to do, but your body just wants to stay in bed when first thing in the morning. Or you may want to go and work out, and you need to go and work out, but for some reason your body just doesn't want to move on its own. Those are things that will fall under the lust of the flesh. Secondly, we got the lust of the eyes. And as the concept implies, this can be anything that we physically see and may have a desire for. Once again, this can be with food, but this can also be material possessions, wealth, things that other people have, other people as a whole, just any and everything that we see and desire. And once again, going back to what I talked about the lust of the flesh, these may be things that we think we want, but we don't necessarily need, and that is pretty much at the root of all of these things. But to get through the last one, we're going to talk about the pride of life. And as the other two are related, this is more so associated with fame, fortune, power, prestige, anything that would essentially put us up on a pedestal or allow us to be exalted in front of other people. And as a thing, when it comes to all of these things, none of them are necessarily wrong in nature. It's just the extent that we would go to get the things that may not be for us. And we actually see these in two different stories, right? We see one story where people actually gave in to the desire, and then we see the second story where that didn't happen. But to get that started and to go into the first one, these things are important to understand, because as I mentioned before, they're at the root of everything that we face. And by knowing how they come up, and we learn how to deal with them, then we'll be able to deal with literally any struggle that we have in life. And the first story that I'm going to be covering tonight is actually going to be the fall of man, coincidentally, and that is in Genesis chapter 3, and it starts at verse 1, and it reads that now the serpent was more crafty than all of the wild animals the Lord God had made, and he said to woman, did God really say, you must not eat from any tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God did say you must not eat the fruit from the tree that's in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it or you will die. So in this verse, of course, I should have gave you a quick backstory, but this is the beginning of creation. This is when God placed Adam and Eve in the forest, and he said that you can eat of all of the trees in the garden except for the tree of knowledge, the tree of good and evil. And in this point, the devil, disguised as a serpent, is trying to trick Eve into eating the fruit. And when he asked her about it, she told him that they could not eat from the fruit of the tree or they're gonna die. And then in the next few verses, we start to see where this deception rises from. And we're going to move down to verse 4, where it reads that you will not certainly die. The serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat from it, that your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And when woman, pay attention, saw the fruit of the tree that was good for food and pleasing to the eye and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some of it and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they realized that they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. And to sum up these few verses, basically we saw in verse 4 and 5 how the three things that I mentioned before led to the downfall of man and has led to every single struggle that we're dealing with right now in life. And it started with the lust of the flesh. You know, this apple or fruit or whatever it was good to eat. It was pleasing to the eyes, the lust of the eyes, and it was desirable for gaining wisdom, which is simply the pride of life. The same three things in summation that caused the fall of man. Literally, once again, the same struggles that we deal with today. And the reason why this happened, the reason why these things were so effective is because Eve doubted who she actually was. That's plain and simple. And when you look at the story from a holistic perspective, they were already all of these things. They already had all of these things. You know, Adam and Eve were already like God because they were made in the image of God, and they already knew good and evil because God said you can eat all of these trees in the forest, but you cannot eat from the tree of good and evil. And that's when it comes back to us in life. You know, there are things that we know deep down, that we really, really don't need. But, you know, when things come up, we tend to go with them anyway. You know, when we really want something, we'll tend to question what it is. You know, is this thing really that bad? You know, what's the worst that can happen? And this is the same question that led to the downfall of humanity. But understanding this is critical, because now that we know what these things are, now that we've seen this thing in action, we can look at a story and overcome those things. And that is going to bring me to the story of Jesus in the wilderness. And that's going to be in Matthew chapter 4. And to bring you up to this point, you know, this is when Jesus was born. He had got baptized in the lake by John the Baptist, and God had said from heaven, "This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased." And now we see him go into the wilderness. So to sum this up, we're going back to Matthew chapter 4, verse 1. And it reads that then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. And the tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." And Jesus answered them and said, "It is written that man shall not live on bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." And when you read these verses, we see that Jesus being tempted in the same way Eve was back in the garden, and that is with the lust of the flesh. Now, also notice in verse 2, it said that Jesus had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and he was hungry. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I can barely go a day without eating, man. He went 40 days and 40 nights, and the verse said, and he was hungry. So imagine this. You know, you're being presented with the fact that you're going to turn a rock into bread so that you can eat after fasting 40 days and 40 nights. But in verse 4, we saw Jesus stand up to it, and he said that it is written that man shall not live by bread alone, but by everything that comes from the mouth of God. When the devil had came to him with that stuff, had came to him trying to sow that doubt in his mind, he fought it off with something that he already knew. But the story keeps going, okay? And we're going to jump down to verse 5. After the devil has failed, it says that then he took him to the holy city and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. And he says that if you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against the stone. But pay attention to this. It said, Jesus answered him, "It is also written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." And to sum up these few verses, here is where we see the pride of life, where the devil has said, you know, if you are who you say you are, if you are the Son of God, then you should be able to throw yourself down from this temple and the angels will lift you up from sudden death. This is a claim of ego. This is Satan trying to say, are you really who you say you are? Are you really this person? And Jesus coming to the clutch again. He said, it's also written, do not put your Lord God to the test. And this is the second time we see Jesus fight off the devil through these situations. And once again, that's the thing that happens in life. When that doubt comes up, we have to be able to fight that thing off. We have to be able to, whatever thought comes into our mind and convince us to do stuff that we know we really shouldn't do, we have to fight it off with what we already know. And we see this story go down just a little further. It starts to get bigger and bigger. And we see this in verse 8. And it reads again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in their splendor. All this I will give you, he said, if you will bow down and worship me. And Jesus said to him, away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. And everyone, this is the last part of the story. This is the last temptation. And we see the lust of the eyes, because Jesus was taken above to see the entire world and everything in it. And to be honest, personally speaking, I think that this is truly the hardest struggle to deal with. And we see it each and every day with people chasing and pursuing things and believing that they need these things. But in the end, it'll only bring harm to them. It's just smoke and mirrors. It's an illusion of what you think it is. But when you get it, it's not what you really wanted. And, in this moment, just looking at it from a serious perspective, imagine if Jesus would actually gave into this. If the only person that could redeem humanity and save us from our sins gave into the same temptation that Adam and Eve did back in the garden. But the thing here that we see that is so prevalent in this story that we didn't see back with Adam and Eve was that Jesus was able to fight this temptation off, because once again, he didn't let the doubt get to him. He fought it off with the things that he knew. And when you look at this story, everything that the devil tempted him with, and Jesus already had the same thing with Adam and Eve. Jesus already knew that he was the bread of life. He says it in the word that I am the bread of life. And he was lifted up by the angels when he rose again 3 days later. And he rose with all power over everything in the world. So even when he was presented with the world, it was already his. He just had to go and do what he had to do. He had to go and die for us in order to receive the world and all the power over everything. And to bring the summation to that story, once you conquer that doubt, once you conquer those thoughts that come to your mind and make you do these things that you really shouldn't do, it has to go away, because it has no power at all. And it reads in Matthew 4, verse 11, then the devil left him and the angels came and attended to him. All right. But summing this up, to sum up this whole message, the whole moral of these stories, right, is that in order to overcome any of the struggles that we deal with in life, you have to overcome the doubt that's in your mind. And this can only be done in those moments by remembering who you are and standing on the things that you already know. And to give you a literal example of this, thinking about a struggle where you deal with somebody that's trying to sell you something. And this is funny, right? Because I always do this in my mind in sales. How you walk into a store or you walk into a mall, or you're just out in public and you see this person, when you walk up to them, they go try to sell you something. The thing that I always do, and I keep in my mind that no matter what they say, no matter how good the product is, no matter what I'm being sold, the answer is always no. And as long as I keep that no in my mind, I'm able to get through. They can't get nothing from me. But the moment I put the maybe in my mind, the moment I think, I might actually need this thing, and the salesperson is good enough, they got you. Like, they will sell you stuff that you really don't need. You walk out with a cable plan, you'll have a watch and cologne and stuff you really don't need or don't even want. And you sitting there wondering minutes later, like, how did I get this stuff? And it simply happened because you wasn't decisive in your doubts. They had sowed that seed of doubt in your mind, and you contemplated for a second, maybe I really need this thing. And that is the same thing that will happen with us in life. There are so many things out there that we really don't need. And the things that if we do go out there and get them, they'll bring us nothing but harm. But in those moments where we want to give in to the stuff that we know we shouldn't, we have to remind ourselves what we're doing, what we're here for, and stand on the things that we know. that food isn't going to be good for me because I'm trying to lose weight. You know, I got to get up in the morning because I got to keep my job. I got to keep putting food and all on the table. You know, I can't go after this because it's going to pull me further away from what I'm actually trying to accomplish. It may look good. It may feel good if I get it, but ultimately it's going to set me back. And when you cast those thoughts down, when you cast those doubts down and stand on what you know, you'll be able to overcome anything. And that's how you essentially cover all of those struggles in life. And it just comes with you remembering who you are at each and every point in time and standing on that. But everyone, that's pretty much it. I pray that you all got something out of this. I kind of went on a tangent here and there, but you know, the moral of the story is, you know, the three struggles in life, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. These are things that can get us at every point in time. And the only way to truly overcome that is to believe in who we are, stay decisive, and stay on the right path. Don't give in to any doubt, no matter how strong it is. And when you do that, you will have an amazing life. All right. But anyway, that's it. I appreciate you all for tuning in. I appreciate everyone that's been listening. Once again, if you like the video, please be sure to like and share this with somebody that may need this message. And then also, everyone, just continue to take care, continue to keep pushing, and continue to work towards getting everything that God has for you. All right. My name is Brian Boyd, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Peace. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're catching this on social media, please be sure to like, comment, and share this video with everyone that would love to hear it. And if you're one of my amazing listeners, please be sure to download the episode and follow us on all social media platforms at The Grounded Podcast. In the meantime, everyone, I pray that you all be blessed, be safe, be prosperous, and I will see you all soon in an upcoming video. This is Brian Boyd, signing off. Peace.